Good morning. On behalf of the arts and culture community, the Roanoke Cultural Endowment was pleased to commission the customized economic impact study to help make the case for the arts. This study will serve as a bedrock for arts advocacy. The study would not have happened if it weren't for the following: an anonymous donor who values the importance of short-term impact, our consultant, Kathy Greenberg, 800 willing audience members completing anonymous surveys at various events and venues over the past 5 months, and the participation of 30 arts and culture organizations in the city of Roanoke. To save some time, we're not going to read all, I'm not going to list all of them, but you have a visual here. 30 arts and culture organizations participated in the study you were about to hear the findings from. I'd also like to acknowledge the Roanoke Valley Allegheny Regional Partnership for their regional commission for the work their office has produced over the past decade on behalf of the arts and culture in Roanoke. So thank you for laying the groundwork. It is now my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker, Randy Cohen. Randy Cohen has been empowering arts advocates at Americans for the Arts since 1991. He recently published Americans Speak Out About the Arts, a national study about the public's opinions and participation in the arts, and also Arts and Economic Prosperity 5, the national economic impact study of the nonprofit arts industry. Randy regularly appears in the news media, including the New York Times, C-SPAN, and NPR. Please help me welcome Randy Cohen.
Good morning. Thank you, everybody. It's so good to be here. We've got a good news story to talk about today. And we're going to change the conversation about the arts from the way we're used to thinking about the arts as, quality of life builder, which it absolutely is, and maybe industry of subsidy and charity, to one of industry. Arts are an industry right here in Roanoke, and we've got a great story to tell about that. But before we get to there, I always like to remind everybody the fundamental benefits of the arts, what they do for us as individuals. Arts are central to a healthy person, a healthy community. They inspire us, they engage us, they bring us joy. How about a hand for Brian? I don't know where he is. Who is our guitarist? Speaking of, there he is, thank you, Brian, that was awesome. So right there, just how music completely setting the scene and setting the stage for us. Arts have been central to our communities and our lives for a long, long time. And I give you as Exhibit A of that, a picture of this hand-carved flute, which was found in a cave in Germany by some anthropologists a couple of years ago. And you can see, it's a hand-carved thing. They dated this to be 35,000 years old. Now, these anthropologists were studying ancient, sort of Stone Age, cave-dwelling civilizations, and they thought, man, wouldn't it be cool if we found a sloot or a bowl or something like that, or hit the jackpot and found a cave painting? Well, they happened upon this flute, and it's beautiful all on its own. It's carved out of animal bone. Actually, someone got, I guess we should blow some air through it and see what happens. Here, you do it, and actually had some good tonality to it. What was fascinating in the article about this find, it was published in the journal Nature, one of the top scientific journals in the world. These anthropologists were trying to figure out, now, what was the purpose of this flute? They thought, well, maybe it was a way to help promote territorial expansion. Yeah, sure, why not, right? Or a way to celebrate the hunt. Maybe related to the fertility ritual, perhaps. I kept thinking, maybe they liked the way it sounded. That never showed up. But you know what? The idea, arts central to our communities have been for a long, long time. Now, fast forward 35,000 years to the 1700s, where we find the shame flute. Now, this little ditty was made out of cast iron here, and the round part was clasped around a person's neck, and the fingers were shackled to this long iron tube. All of this picture here. The purpose of the shame flute was to punish bad musicians. That's right. You got a gig at the Prince's Palace, to snake up the joint. Well, they marched around town for a couple of days in the shame flute so everybody could laugh at the bad musician. You know, sounds barbaric, but they cared about their music, right? So we'll give them that. You can actually find the shame flute at the Museum of Crime and Punishment, which is where else? Washington, D.C. So anyway, no idea. Arts have been part of our communities for a long, long time. Now, I want to stipulate all those fundamental benefits of the arts, and again, start to think about the arts a little bit differently. Now, I actually got to go to an arts event recently. You think with Americans for the Arts in my business card, he must be going to the arts all the time. Lucky. I was much trouble getting out the door as the next guy. But it was date night with my wife, and we had one planned. A little bit about myself. Newly an empty nester. Anyone who's on the cusp of this is in for glorious times ahead. But my wife and I, in sort of this newfound time, we've taken up ballroom dancing. So you're looking at a very amateur ballroom dancer here, which is pretty cool. I'm enjoying that. I was a little skeptical at first. So we were in our class, and the teacher told us about this fabulous tango performance that was going to be happening at one of the theaters. We thought, oh, we should go and check it out and see how they're doing it and what we're doing. So we went home and, you know, did what everybody does, right? Got online, started looking around, searching for the theater that it was at, and then, you know, found the right theater and the different performances. Found the one we wanted to go to. It was a couple Fridays from then. Pulled out a credit card, punched in the number, bought the tickets, printed them out. Love the e-commerce, right? We were good to go. So date night was all set. So fast forward a couple Fridays, and got home from work, and I was informed we'd be dressing up this evening. So on with the suits, but waiting for me actually was a new necktie. So this whole economic impact of the arts evening hadn't even started. There was already some retail spending involved, right? So, you know, on with the new tie, and then on the way to the theater, we stopped and had dinner, right? Isn't that something we do? Dinner and a show, they just go hand in hand. So, went to a nice restaurant, farm to fork place, spent about $70, had our meal. And then from there, I was in the car and over to the theater, and we parked the parking garage next to the theater, peeled off my $10, gave it to the guy, got my stub, and then we went into the theater itself, and it's one of those beautifully restored historic theaters, you know, and we've got some right here in town, and, you know, so we looked at the beautiful, you know, art on the ceiling and the walls, and we got our program, and we sat down in the auditorium and read about the dancers, and read about the history of the theater, and just kind of admired the space. And so all this has happened, but it's only 5 minutes to 8, right? So the performance hasn't even started yet. But think about how many industries have been touched related to Randy's date night to the arts, which actually started weeks before. Well, you know, it started when we got home and got online and started looking for the theater. Arts organizations employ, you know, designers and programmers, you know, web and tech professionals. And we pulled out the credit card, we bought our ticket, right? So now you've got the banking and the finance and the e-commerce people involved, and they're sort of getting a piece of the action. Then date night comes. Not sure where the necktie came from. It was kind of a cool Frank Lloyd Wright one. So, you know, somebody made something off of that in the retail world. And then the restaurant. It's one of those farm to fork places, like I said, $70. Some of those dollars are going to the local growers and producers of the food around there. And the waiters bring home some personal income. The owner of the restaurant, some entrepreneurial income. So there's all of that commerce happening. And then it was off to the theater, right? We parked in the parking garage, $10. Now, where I am, that happens to be a municipally owned parking garage. And let me tell you, the city is making bank on that theater. You know, 500 people in that theater, and it's $10, $10. I gotta tell you, before that theater was restored, things kind of got quiet around there, around 5 or 6 o'clock at the end of the business day. Now, you know, since the theater's been restored, there's restaurants and, you know, bars and sort of new economy businesses, design, architecture shops. So the whole area is red hot. And, you know, it goes, I'm sure, till midnight or well past that even. So there's all of that activity. And then into the theater itself. You ever notice when you go to an arts event, you're always getting paper. Even today, you got paper in front of you. Well, their program. There's a writer in the community that's paid to write that. And there's a graphic artist that's being paid to do the design work. And printing. Thousands and thousands and thousands of those programs. And it's always full color, right? I mean, the whole lobby there, it's like tons of fabulous design and printed materials. So then, the curtain goes up. And actually, so I used to run a theater. I'll tell you one more thing. Those beautiful chandeliers you see in those theaters? Those aren't interns that change those light bulbs. You gotta let electricians get up there. Arts organizations employ the trades, electricians, plumbers, accountants, auditors. So they do a lot more than just, after the curtain goes up, employ those dancers. And that's right when people maybe think, oh, arts are a business. I bet those dancers are getting paid something, tough going if you're a dancer. So that whole experience happens thousands and thousands and thousands of times a day, a night, a week, even right here in Roanoke. And so that's what we captured with this Arts and Economic Prosperity study that I want to tell you about. And Roanoke, part of a national study we've done over the last 2 years, now over 350 communities. And that public opinion study that Shalene mentioned, 90% of the American public says, the arts improve our quality of life. That's not a big surprise. People get that. But I got to tell you, I was a little surprised to find out 86% of the American public says arts are good for local businesses. Arts are good for the local economy. So people get all of this. People just sort of play this scenario out in their brain a little bit. And now there's numbers to underscore that. So you can see this is a big national study. Here we are. Everybody catch this technical effect? That was all me, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. We're in all 50 states. We study communities as small as 1,400 people, as large as 4 million. It doesn't matter if you're in a small rural community, a large urban city, a suburban neighborhood. If the arts are happening there, there is a measurable economic impact. We surveyed 30 arts organizations in the city of Roanoke, and something that's only happened like several times in my career, we heard back from everybody. So thank you. 100% compliance rate. Absolutely. That was appropriate. That's phenomenal. So we really heard back from all of the arts organizations and did 800 audience surveys at a whole range of events across the community. So, not just at the ballet or the museum, but, at the festivals, local colors, and a whole range of the kinds of organizations and events that happen here. So, what do we find out? Well, number one, arts are a big industry here. $64.2 million industry right here in Roanoke. And you can see those figures are made up of two numbers. On the left, you've got spending by the organizations themselves. Just those 30 organizations, $25.4 million in expenditures. So we're not making big estimates or anything like that. You know what? Even if, say, only 20 of the organizations responded, we only use data from the organizations that provide it. We don't make any estimates or extrapolations or about anything. We can put our fingers all over these dollars. And $25.4 million in expenditures, 1.2 million attendees at all of those events. That is a lot of foot traffic in the community. Then there's the event-related spending that those dollars lever, $38.8 million. And that's all that audience spending. That's Randy's date night part, right? So we'll drill into that a little bit. But lots of economic activities, $64.2 million.